Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another photo mishmash. This one being broadcast live December 4th, 2019. Got big, big news to share with everybody. Plus, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the 200 to 600. We're going to check in with my good friend and co-host Steve to see if he's decided on a new camera yet, and so much more. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Good. How is everybody? Happy belated Thanksgiving. I realize it's been a couple weeks since we've done the show or since I've been on the show. Yeah, last week.
Yeah, no show last week. We had a little Thanksgiving break. I know you had a lot of family in town. I had some family in town.
Yeah.
So it was really, really, really nice. Let me ask you this, Steve. You had family in town?
Mm-hmm. A lot of family, yeah.
A lot of family. How much photo taking did you do with a smartphone versus, a professional camera?
Usually family events when people come over and we do stuff here, I just use my smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
But I did get a request to bring my good camera out when we were after Thanksgiving. This was really cool. I think we're going to do this as a tradition now. We bought those glowing lanterns that you light a fire underneath them and they inflate and they go up. And we all wrote what we were thankful for and, people that were there and stuff. And we lit those and sent them off. And so I had a request to bring out my good camera to take pictures of those. Unfortunately, though, it was during daylight hours. So the effect was kind of lost because one of the guys at Thanksgiving is an executive with PacSun Surfwear. And he had to go to work for Black Friday, keep an eye on his stores and stuff like that. So we decided to get the lanterns up in the air too early. But so anyway, long-winded way of telling you that I did end up taking about half my pictures with my Canon.
Cool. Interesting. I love chat room. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us. I'd love to see over the holidays when you had family and friends in town, or maybe you were over at someone else's house, how much shooting did you do on your phone versus your camera? I had my brother and adorable nieces and his wife all here. And we did some out and about, touristy stuff in Seattle and, of course, eating. And I took almost all of my pictures on my phone, took a couple of quick snaps.
Yeah.
One day with my Sony with a little Rokinon 35 millimeter lens, which is, I think, still on sale at a ridiculous price of like $230.
It seems like the iPhone 11 has really kicked the mobile camera into high gear. I mean, it was always going that way. People were using their cell phones more and more. That's obvious. But I was watching Marques Brownlee's video last night on the best tech of 2019. And instead of just talking about his opinion, he went to all these big YouTube names that many of us who watch YouTube probably know. And they each said what their favorite piece of tech was for the year. And there were a lot of people that said the iPhone 11. And these are tech guys. And not just the iPhone 11, Samsung and Google, they all have great cameras and stuff now. But it's getting to the point where you're really starting to blur the lines between smartphones and mirrorless cameras.
Yeah.
And it's I'm all for it. I think it's really cool. I don't think that a smartphone is ever going to replace what I do with a mirrorless or a DSLR, especially if I want to create large images. It's just a matter of sensor size. But it is really cool to see the technology that's in our phones now.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is impressive. And especially the iPhone on the video side of things is just blows me away with what it's capable of doing. I don't think they've enabled that multi-frame recording yet. I think that's coming in an update sometime soon. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But, I do love my Pixel 4 XL. But on the video side of things, it's just okay. It's not exciting. But the iPhone on the video side of things is fantastic.
Yeah.
My brother had the newish, it's not too new, the Samsung Note 10. It was fun to take some side-by-side comparisons with him. The Pixel 4 pretty much crushed his pictures. They weren't bad, but there's a noticeable improvement in detail, especially in the lower light with the Pixel 4. So, yeah. So, it's just interesting to see. As you said, I think we've been trending that way fairly quickly for a while. I think the iPhone 11 moved a lot of people even further, especially content creators, because it's just always right there for you. So easy.
Yeah, and the multiple lenses. And the rumor is that the 12 coming out next year in the fall is supposed to have 4 lenses. So you'll still have the same cutout space that you have for the 3 lenses and the flash, but there will actually be a 4th lens in there. So.
And what's the rumor that 4th lens will be?
I don't remember. I think I saw it in an early rumor article, but I can't remember. So right now you've got a standard, you've got a zoom, and you've got a wide angle.
Yeah.
What else would you need? I don't know.
I don't either. I know Samsung is rumored with what's their next one, the 11, to maybe have 5, one being 108 megapixel sensor camera, wow, and another being
a little sensor.
I know.
Use that low light.
Yeah, but that's the other rumor is on the same phone, another sensor, another lens will be optimized for incredible low light. Maybe it'll be even better than the astrophotography mode on the Pixel.
Oh yeah, it could be like a nighttime.
We'll see
or something.
Yeah, we'll see. It's it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Roy, you picked up the Pixel 3a. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the best value phones out there. It's like $200, $300 for some of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals, which leads to my question. What did people pick up over Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
What I would love to know, chat room, what'd you get at Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Did you treat yourself? Did you buy some cool stuff for other people? What kind of gifts did you buy Toby and myself? We're looking forward to receiving those.
When do they arrive? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Send me a tracking number. I'll keep an eye on it so you don't have to.
Yeah. I bought one thing that's not very exciting. This is not what I bought. This is usually what I use to run my Sony into the computer to stream this show and also to record many of my videos. And I just got tired of it being a little flaky in the last couple of months. I don't know if you remember, Steve, there's a couple of moments before we started the show where it just refused to work. I'd have to plug it. So I bought this Elgato Cam Link that was on sale for $100, and it's currently what's hooked up and running the HDMI through USB, and it does it at 4K. This is limited to 1080. We're not streaming this show at 4K, but I have to say it works very, very smoothly, and it comes with some pretty slick software too. So I was excited about that. It's nothing like really cool like a new camera or lens, but it's certainly something that makes my life a little bit easier, not having to have a heart attack thinking I'm going to have to run the show off a webcam.
Yeah. We thought we got through both Black Friday and Cyber Monday without buying anything. And then I realized that I did run down to Best Buy. I think it was Sunday before Cyber Monday, and I got a ring for our house that we moved into. We had one in our old house, and I loved it. And we've been meaning to get it for the last couple of months, and they had some incredible deals. So we went and did that. So I did take advantage of it for ourselves, but that's really all we did. I know you mentioned in the opener that we were going to talk about a new camera for me, and I've been keeping a very, very close eye on things and almost hit that enter button, almost clicked the buy link, but held off because I don't need to get anything until my daughter's wedding, which is mid-January, and I'm just we got a lot of other expenses.
I understand. Wait
and see if some crazy deal comes up or a used model.
Yeah. So I just shared a couple of from the chat room, some of your purchase pickups. There weren't any, and that's another thing I want to make a mark back. So you actually went in a physical store, Steve. How was it?
It was good. I just saw Tim's comment. Ring from Best Buy. Gasp. Sorry, Tim. I was getting ready to write him. So I went in the physical store. It was actually kind of an adventure. It's not that it was chaotic. So what Ring had is they had the Ring Pro plus a chime, which is a $299 set, and you get a free Echo Show 5 or whatever, the small little Echo Show. And we've got a big Echo Show at the house, and we thought, well, it's like a $90 value, and it was $179. So we decided to take advantage of that. Well, they had it. They had the whole display, and then they rang me up, and it came up as $299. I said, well, no, I grabbed it from the display that was $179. They said, oh, no, that's for the one without the chime. And then I said, well, that's fine. I don't need the chime, so I'll take the other one. And then they rang it up with the Echo Show gift or for free, and they charged me $10 for that. So they had all their signage was screwed up. And I ended up, I was at the register. I said, well, I thought that was thrown in for free, and now it's $10. And she agreed with me. She said, and they ended up doing a price adjustment. So they handled it well. But, you know, I honestly, I left the store just thinking, this is why people shop online.
Yeah.
It's not that it was chaotic or anything. I could park right in front of the store and stuff, but I was standing up there at the register kind of bickering about signage and pricing, and I looked like the schmuck that was just trying to get something for free from them, and that wasn't the case. It just, you know.
Oh, come clean, Steve. You are a big schmuck.
I can be.
No. Yeah, I was just curious because it sounded like I did not go shopping in any physical stores on either of those days. It sounded like stores were not as busy as they have been in the past, and online retailers were incredibly busy. Amazon Cyber Monday was their biggest day in history. And I mean, that makes sense because it was last year also, I believe, or was actually Prime Day bigger this summer than the previous Cyber Monday. But anyway, so they are still growing. More people are shopping online than other places, and that is taking people away from physical stores and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, and Tim said, I bought all Amazon products at Best Buy. So I didn't see that deal on Amazon, Tim. But anyway, maybe they had it. I honestly, I didn't look that well. My daughter bought one and the show is a gift for one of her kids. So
Nice.
I'm like, oh, that sounds like a sweet deal. I'm going to go down and get one too.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, the deals there weren't any big, awesome surprises that happened on Black Friday. Most of the camera deals started showing up a few days early and lasted all the way through the weekend. There's always this little extra stuff like the hard drives. There were some great deals on those if you needed them, SD cards, some other stuff like that. But nothing too amazing. The one deal that I thought was awesome was the Sony and B&H education discount. I don't know if you saw those, but they were $1,000 off brand new cameras if you have or qualify for the education discount. And the qualification system was quite easy and really just needed a high school or higher approved email address, and you were in. I just got a note from B&H this morning that said, please stop talking about that deal. It was a huge success, and Sony has asked us to stop talking about it. And so they're like, okay, wait a sec. Because the first thing I did was like, hey, my daughter, give me your email address, went and see if we qualified. I was just curious. And It was a very easy process. So I think a lot of people out there were like, hey, kid, I pay a lot of money for your college. Let me see if I can get some discount. Let me borrow your email address for a minute. You're buying this camera, right? Yeah.
That's funny. Well, we qualify as educators with Penn, right? And instructors on tour. And
yeah, we just need to give ourselves an EDU address, I think.
Yeah.
Speaking of Penn, the big news, I just want to share it right up front. We're 15 minutes in, is that we have launched Penn on a completely new platform. And, we've been proud of the content from day one. Steve, myself, David, and Allie, we have worked together to just put together what I think is truly some of the best educational material anywhere online. And you pair that with the community. Many of you are in the chat room. I think you can vouch for this. It is truly one of the best communities anywhere online. And those two things together, it's been fantastic. But the website we were working on, it wasn't the best. Search wasn't, something you could actually do to find out all of our Lightroom videos. We had them categorized, but what if you wanted to see if there were Tuesday tips written about Lightroom, plus videos, plus any other articles? That was difficult. Not anymore. We've got a brand new, gorgeous, beautiful website. I'm going to share the screen for just a few minutes here.
I'm going to get right in this room. It's getting dark outside.
Yeah, you're just a floating head, Steve.
I know.
That's all you are.
I noticed it was changing right before my eyes.
So here we are in the Photo Enthusiast Network, and we've got all of our categories, of course. I'm really proud of editing. There is just so much there. And again, you're getting content from me, from Steve, from Allie. And I'll just say that, honestly, you can get a lot of this stuff online for free from different YouTubers. But what I find again and again is, well, one, if you're watching this and you have any interest in the kind of content I make, then you know what you're getting. It's very similar to this show and other content you've watched on my YouTube channel. And you also know that we're not going to waste time. There's not 5 minutes of kind of rambling at the beginning of the video. There's not any kind of sponsorship. It's just the content you want, the content you're looking for. And we now are up to several hundred videos and hundreds of articles as well that covers just about everything you need to know from the very basics. You are a beginner at photography on up. There's a ton of content in here. And the thing that I am so excited about is the fact that you can search. It seems like such a basic function, but yeah, it was not easy to do before. So let's search for aperture and see what comes up. There we go. We've got multiple pages of aperture content, all available for you. Some of that is articles, some of that is video. It's just a really, really great place. And then of course we have the community forum as well. So that's exciting, but also today is a deal. It's actually going to be live for a couple of days, just a couple, through Groupon. You can purchase a 6-month membership or a 1-year membership at ridiculously low prices. And here's the other thing too. There's no gitches, there's no gotchas, there's no strings attached to this. As a person who runs the business, I actually don't love this, but as a consumer, this is fantastic for you. You don't give us our credit card information.
Well, it's great as a gift too.
That's right. At the end of this trial period, or at the end of this membership period, you have to actively decide to sign up again. There's no, oh, I forgot to sign up 6 months ago, or I forgot to cancel, and I've been charged for 6 months for something I'm not using. No, that does bother me as a consumer. I never like having to remember to cancel. I usually set a calendar reminder, and then I miss the calendar reminder, and then I have to call up the newspaper and say I meant to cancel, and then I have to argue with them, just like you were at Best Buy. So this price is ridiculous. 6 months for $15, a whole year for $24. You get access to all of that content I just mentioned, plus the community. Professional photographers, myself, Steve, David, Allie, we are in there. We're answering questions. It's an awesome place, and this is an amazing price. So purchase it for yourself. As Steve said, purchase it as a gift for somebody else. Again, you get a full refund 3 days after purchase is one thing you can do. But then again, I want to stress that if you forget to renew, you don't get charged again, ever, from us. So it's really, really easy. It's worth your time. Take a look at it. I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions popping up about new members only, and as I understand it, that's all it is for. It's only a couple of days, like Toby said. I think it expires on is it the 5th?
Yes.
Is that the last day? So that's tomorrow. And David has worked with Groupon. He worked with Groupon years ago with his portrait and teaching business and stuff. But he's been working on this. I personally don't know any of the details about it, but I know it's just a couple of days, and really it's to bolster membership, get more people communicating and seeing what we have to offer, and then a great gift idea for people. So I would consider it for, your friends or your family members or whoever, gift it over to them and get them in the chat room. And then our hope is that the collaboration that many of you that have been on board since day one have seen kind of keeps people around, and you start doing photo activities together and learning off of each other and everything else. So it is for new members only, but it's only until tomorrow. So
that's right. Yeah. Carrie's asking, how does she enter her Groupon code? You should receive an email that has a link to the page that you'll land on to be able to do that, Carrie. And Tim says, what does this mean? Not valid for customers active within the past 6 months? Basically means new customers. Yeah. So take a look at that, and it's just fantastic content. All of my Lightroom videos are there. New content is added every week, article and video at the very least, every single week. It's like a photography book that just has all of the answers you're looking for. And if it doesn't have the answer, you post the question in the community, and then you get the answer. So
well,
always
awesome that things are so searchable now. So. When we built the original site, it was very heavy on webinars. We had a lot of plans to do a lot of webinars, live streaming and answer questions and stuff like that. And it was a decent platform for that. But we found out very quickly that it wasn't a solid platform for what we needed for a membership site. And we really wanted people to have that material and be able to search it and quickly get to what they needed to get to. So that was kind of the premise for starting this new site, and it came together just so quickly and so flawlessly. I love it. It's really nice to navigate now.
Yeah. We're going to dive into editing a few photos in Lightroom in just a second, but I wanted to say, one, Roy put the link in the chat. Two, show notes right down below this video has a link to the Groupon deal. So if you're watching it after the fact and you don't see the chat on your screen, you can click that link to access it there as well. One thing else that I did want to mention is out of those Black Friday deals, I think one of the best ones that I saw was the DJI Mavic Pro 2 on sale for $1,380. It was a $300 savings or $350 savings off its normal price. And that is pretty impressive. That link, that is still active. I think it ends tomorrow night. So that link is also in the show notes.
I've been keeping an eye on Fuji. The model that I really want to get is the XE3 with a 23mm lens, and Amazon had it for $200 off. That was when I was just about to click that buy now button, and it's so tempting. But I mean, that's a pretty sweet deal. It's a camera and a lens for $750.
Yeah, it's great. All right, Steve, let's dive into editing a couple of pictures in Lightroom. So this is a benefit for Pen members. If you are a member of Pen, you get to submit an image to us each week, and we take some time to poke and prod it in Lightroom and sometimes Photoshop, giving you tips and tricks, mostly to teach you about editing in Lightroom, to really get feedback on your pictures. I mean, some of that comes through in this editing process, but that is also a membership benefit that is part of Pen as well. Monthly image reviews by professional photographers. All right, let's jump right into our first picture. And I think it's showing up correctly for you, Steve. Is that right?
It is, yeah. And
okay.
So nice to see something from Romaine.
It is, I agree.
Has she submitted to Mishmash before?
I feel like once or twice,
okay,
but I could be wrong.
She does great work. I love her photos.
Yeah. This is making me think Glacier, but I'm not positive.
No. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes me think of when we go up to Mini Glacier, but I don't think this is it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Wherever
it is. It's beautiful. It's one of those pictures that comes up, and if I took this and I landed here in Lightroom, I'd say, I think it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing with Romaine's work. I mean, I'm going to kind of prop her up for a second here. I've seen a number of her pictures over the last couple of years. She's been touring with us, and man, she really does some nice work. Not a lot to say about this one. I love what she did right out of the box here. I'm assuming now this isn't a DNG, right? We can't see her edits at all.
This is a TIFF, and no editing has come through with this. So I think she has done some editing based on how nicely lit the landscape is. Yeah, we don't see them.
This is McDonald Lake at Glacier. Okay.
Ah, nice.
Love that spot. The only thing with a picture like this that I'll say is, just as kind of a critic when I look at something like this, I mean, it's great the way it is. It's practically perfect the way it is. One of the things you have to be very careful about with pictures like this is you have a lot of detail throughout the entire image, and it's symmetrical. So you've got the detail throughout the entire picture, and it's super impressive. Really grabs your attention. It's beautiful to look at. But if you can tone down some of the detail in the sky, it helps the mountains just kind of stand out a little bit more as that surface area that has, all the details of the mountains that you want to focus on. Just create a little bit of contrast between the cloudy sky and the mountains. I mean, look, this is just getting nitpicky, really, because it's gorgeous the way it is. But just a suggestion, something to consider when you have something that has this much detail. I tend to do that a lot if I'm working on a picture that has, you know, jagged, beautiful mountains, and I was lucky enough to get this gorgeous puffy cloud sky. I tend to soften that up just a little bit to create more contrast. And then with a picture like this, you also should do that in the bottom half as well, because it is mirrored, but you're really going to want to do that on the non-reflective side.
Yeah. You know, one of the guys, so I just threw a graduated filter over top and then kind of quickly brushed out the top of the mountains so that they weren't getting affected by that. You hit O to take that on and off, and it just softened that stuff up there just a little bit. And I do think, I think I like that. We might be able to just right click on that, say duplicate, and then drag it down here. I got to get off the brush and flip it. And let's hit O and see. We do lose our brush editing, but I don't think it's quite as important in this quick example down below. Oh, actually it is still there, isn't it? Oh, it left the duplication left up top, so we'd have to replace that. But that's nice. And I might brighten the reflection just a little bit. And the other thing that I would do, and I think a question I get commonly is, I've taken this great picture, where do I even start with editing? And we've talked about this a lot, but I might just start by looking and saying, what does this picture look like if I warm it up a little bit? Or cool it down. I just try both of those things quickly, and I think you can make an argument for either.
Yeah, I say this all the time on tours to people that are new to editing, and you get really kind of gun shy on where to start and what to do to the picture and stuff. Just move the sliders around, see what they do. Go to the extremes. You're not going to break the photograph. That's the beauty of Lightroom. It's non-destructive. Your raw file, you can always revert right back to your raw file. Nothing will be broken. So play around with it and see what they do, and try different looks. I know we've done tutorials and stuff in the past about that, but when I was getting started, I used to pull up photographers' pictures that I really liked, and I would pull up one of mine that was similar, and I'd move sliders around until it had a similar look and feel as the person that I looked up to, and that taught me a ton.
Yeah, and you wrote a great article about that quite a while ago, maybe last year, maybe the year before, that's on the Pen site that shows you exactly how to use that reference image.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to this shot from Pam, which I think, Pam, is a phone shot. It's got a decent resolution, but one thing I notice, and I don't know if you can see this as well, Steve, coming through the internet, is that the detail falls off quickly. We got a lot of kind of pixely smearing off in this distance.
I can't see that. I can definitely see a reduction in clarity back there, and it just looks very hazy. I mean, obviously there's haze in the sky that was captured, but compared to the bright, crisp detail in the foreground, it does seem to change abruptly.
Take a little bit of that dehaze out, and hazing things or dehazing things always makes them a little bit cooler. The problem is that sky is so.
I would minimize that sky. Actually, I would also look at a crop without the sky, just to not introduce another bright element, because you've got the brown right there with the land, and as soon as you put the sky in there, it competes with the other bright elements in the picture. And then I completely looked over the gorgeous way the sun is hitting the foreground right there the first time I looked at it, because my eye traveled up to the sky. So I think cropping the sky out is a great way to go. I was going to say otherwise minimize it, but there's enough to look at here. And then it gives you the sense that the background just goes on and on and on and on. You don't even see where the horizon is.
That's a great point. Yep. Yeah. And then, Pam, we were just talking about how great mobile phones are, but we're definitely seeing, a pretty significant loss of detail here in these. I don't think you could print this very large at all without really starting to see that. And I'm kind of surprised, because this is the iPhone XR. That's, what year is that from?
That's last year's model. That's a newer phone.
Yeah. So I'm surprised. I feel like we should have more detail in this than we're seeing right here. I don't know if something else happened to it, if it got resized and then upsized or something.
Right.
But a lovely, lovely spot. Love the light and those shadows. I think this is the Palouse area of Eastern Washington. Very pretty.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Lynn Martindale submitted this shot. She took on our New England workshop from a couple weekends ago. And I think I know where you're going to go, Steve, but let's see if we are of the same mind.
I'll tell you if you're right. What you can probably read my mind at this point.
I mean, I love the idea that you always talk about where there's a story in the image, and there's a subject also is another way to say that in a lot of cases. I think the subject is mostly what's going on over here with these roots and these bits of leaves all in them, and over here we just kind of get some extra stuff that isn't really adding anything. So you could do a vertical crop here, I think. That gets in much tighter and really focuses in on those roots. You could also just do a crop, somewhere in this general neighborhood, I think, that gets some of those roots, some of the rocks, and some of the trees, straight trees in the background there as well. Do you have a preference?
I prefer the vertical out of the two options that you just showed, because right now you've got this whole other story going on in the upper left corner with this larger tree that you kind of want to see more. One of the things that I would challenge people to see in this photograph is you actually have a beautiful leading line of color and brightness with the red and yellow leaves coming from the lower left into the center of the frame, and then ending, in the rule of thirds where that tree with all the roots is. So Toby, go ahead and keep coming to the left, include that second tree, but look at where that line of leaves just kind of naturally goes up and to the right. Yeah, there you go. Cut out some of that, dirt in the foreground there. Yeah. So now you've got a lot more depth and layering with the multiple trees, especially coming in on the left-hand side, but there's a natural leading line from the lower left into the center of the frame, and then the tree in the third. I would probably consider going into Photoshop and taking that knot, or that where the branch may have been broken off of that tree.
Right up there.
The main one with all the roots.
Oh, down here.
Yeah, the bright spot.
Yeah.
It's just, as soon as you notice it, you see where it looks like there was a tree limb about a third of the way up the trunk.
Right here?
The big round one.
This thing here?
There you go. Boom.
Oh, that's a lichen spot.
Is that a lichen spot?
Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah. So we can hide that with a little quick cue. The other thing I want to point out is, Lynn, I know this is right behind you is gorgeous waterfalls, and you've got a really long exposure and f/16 that I don't think was anything you needed to do here, and it's not quite as sharp as I would like it to be. It's not bad, but I think that coming back to a normal length exposure would be a little bit better there.
How long was the exposure? I can't.
3.5 seconds.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So she had to have been on a tripod.
Yeah. So I just did a graduated filter over this bottom. Again, kind of similar to the Romaine with separating the clouds from the detail. Just going to texturize this a little bit more to separate it from the background. And now you could have done that using your aperture there at the location a little bit. And we could also bump the saturation just a little bit to really make this kind of foreground stuff glow. Cool. Thanks, Lynn. Roy, actually, this is Roy. This is Kevin via Roy. He was having some trouble getting a shot to us. And I don't know if he placed this leaf or not. We're going to assume he didn't. He just came across this scene. Kevin was also on our New England workshop and just happened to notice this gorgeous maple leaf on top of this little green mossy rock.
Is this Kevin O'Gara?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I think the way he processed this file and the way it's submitted, I might throw a pretty dark vignette on here to really just make that leaf pop more. Its positioning is good. It's a little awkward having the stem kind of go off to the left-hand side. I almost want it to be a vertical shot and then maybe flip it around.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still in your upper right third, but it's more of a vertical orientation. But what you can't change about the shot, or what would take a lot of work in something like Photoshop, is when you're taking this shot, when you're actually taking the picture, do a little landscaping. You know, take out some of these dry, dead leaves, and position it exactly where you want it. Because it is a scene that you can get away with it looking natural. You know, like you stumbled across it. There's so many leaves.
Yep. I agree a lot with that. I call that pre-shopping. And, you know, I like your point of the vignette. Let's just show folks, you know, if it doesn't work, because the vignette is always just kind of working via the center, you could do the same thing by getting your graduated filter, your radial filter tool, and sticking that over what you want and lowering it. And you can see that now it's going to be centered over your leaf. So you can really make it seem like a spot of light is right there on your leaf. And I've got a pen video that shows more about this. You could then duplicate that and invert it and make the inner brighter. So now you've kind of both controlled the darkness on the outside and the brightness on the inside. Be careful not to overdo it and make it seem like it's in a fake spotlight of light, like there's a flashlight on it or something like that. But I think that looks pretty subtle still.
Yeah, and the key to that is just to really tone down all the other stuff that's competing for your attention there. You know, anything that's bright around it is going to draw your eye away from the red and yellow leaf. Yep. So by darkening it like that, it really helps it not only to pop, but keeps the viewer on the story.
Sounds good. All right, we're going to move on to Maggie. We've seen a couple shots from Maggie now. She was, I wanted to say Croatia again. I can't remember, but I think she was over in that area. And we've got, I think, some dockyard and these repeating blue doors. It's pretty cool.
This is pretty cool. A great leading line.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see an iteration. Yeah, okay, you're straightening it. That's key. But Toby, bring that right side. Yeah, cut that whole shadowy part out. The little shadow on the ground you can clip out in Photoshop, but just the whole shadowed wall.
Mm-hmm.
Make it look like it just. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like this. So the question here is, and we're again on the same page, Steve. The question is, like, Maggie, what caught your eye here? And I think it was these blue doors. So you really want to make that about your composition. Really focus in and show this repetition of these blue doors. And so I think a composition somewhere around here would have been a little bit better. And
I would even consider coming in on the left side so that the line starts in the lower left. And cut that number 1 out, because my eye keeps kind of starting there and then it just stops. Now you're cropping in pretty tight here.
Yeah.
But that's awfully square. But if there's a way of, I don't know. I would kind of play around with that. The number 1 is kind of messily spray painted on the door. Looks kind of cool, but it's also stops you from your eye traveling down and seeing that dude walking along and the seagull and stuff. Yep.
And now I'm just brushing on some extra texture to these doors to really kind of make that detail stand out. And I mean, if you're watching this, you're thinking we're doing kind of the same thing to picture after picture, just in different spots. Yeah, that's pretty much what this editing is. It's very, very similar stuff. Use those textures to really emphasize what you want, or as Steve suggested in that very first one, kind of soften an image to emphasize the texture in a different spot. Same result, just a slightly different way to go about it. All right, last images we got from Sue. This is cool. This is some.
Where is that? That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's some Guggenheim like apartment building or something. This is cool. Very cool.
Wow. I don't know. I like what she did with this. You know, if I'm getting picky, I'd want to see that the palms from the 4th tree on the far left removed, so you just have the 3 trees. And a good choice to keep the 3 trees in there because we tend to be drawn. We talked about this on the show before, but we tend to be drawn to odd numbers visually. It's just there's something pleasing about that. You build a custom home, you want like 3, pendant lights over your kitchen counter is what people will tell you, 3 or 5 odd numbers. And I like the contrast between this funky, hard-edged modern steel building and these, soft palm trees.
Yeah, I'm just taking some out real quick. This is definitely a job for Photoshop, though, because you can see I'm running into some smearing there.
Yeah, that would take some work and some time. It can be done.
Yeah.
There's not too much to remove there. And then some of the lighter elements in the foreground, I would either, kind of clone those out or crop up a little bit.
This is another one where, again, I would get a brush and up the texture and clarity on the building. Just really emphasize that sharpness against the kind of soft nature that's surrounding it. I think you did a nice job framing. I think played with bringing in the crop a little bit tighter. It's one of those things we talk a lot about being very deliberate in your framing. And you're getting near the top of these 2 palms in a way that makes me feel like you weren't really paying attention. And so I would love to see all of it maybe, or come in enough to say, hey, I saw those palms and I made the decision to frame it more like this. I don't know.
Shelby, do me a favor and go real quickly into the transform tool and guided lines and just draw on the 2 outer trees straight up and down.
All right, so I'm going to go to guide, and I'm going
to. The building is going to give us. It's going to be very forgiving because it's such an odd building.
So we're saying we want these 2 trees to be straightish.
Yeah.
And we're going to say constrained to crop.
Personally, I like that because you take away that wide angle lens distortion when you straighten everything up, and the building definitely can work with it. Now you have to go into Photoshop and fill in those edges. But yeah, I like that.
Yeah, looks nice. Awesome. All right. We did tell people at the beginning of the show, but you do have a hard out that we want to keep to in about 15 more minutes. So if worst comes to worst, we'll let you go and I'll answer the last bits of Q&A. But let's hit some news articles and some other bits of information in kind of a rapid fire way. And make sure if you do have questions, be posting them in the chat room. Roy is collecting them and sticking them at the bottom of my document. So we will be answering all of that very, very soon. So the bit of headlines that I saw over the last couple of days is that Sony is now #1 in the US in mirrorless full frame cameras. So that sounds...
That's not surprising, but that's impressive.
Yeah, it's impressive and it's not surprising. I agree. The fact that it's not, we're not talking about full frame cameras here, folks. There are still a bajillion Canons out there, DSLRs, and Nikon too, to some degrees. Although, man, it really doesn't sound good for Nikon these days.
Yeah, so I haven't read any of the stories, but I've seen the headlines that financially, I mean, their numbers are way.
I mean, everybody's numbers are down. Their numbers are just down even more, and they're being very honest, saying we've come up with some products that aren't working very well. People aren't reacting to them very well. And we're going to pull back on some of our research and development, which is like, well, is that the way to go? Because you're just going to fall further and further behind. I mean, it is clear that Sony has pumped in a huge amount of research and development. That's why the sensors are some of their best. That's why the autofocus is the best among the mirrorless cameras. You can't really argue that. It doesn't mean it's the best camera for everybody. No, absolutely not. But their autofocus is still among the mirrorless on top. And those results has shown. It'll be very interesting to see where we are in another year or two. What are the next models that the cameras are coming out with? Nikon is trying for that Z50, that APS-C sized mirrorless. I just don't see people adopting that very much.
I think one of the key ingredients is you actually have to come out with something. It's not that you have to come out with something every year frequently, do what Sony did. But if you are going to wait and come out with something, it's it doesn't have to be earth-shattering, but it at least has to stack up to what's current in the market. You can't come out with something new and expect a lot of people to buy it if the stats of the product or the specs of the product don't match up with what other people are doing. Loyalty to the brand only goes so far, and you're starting to see that now. You're starting to see people jumping from Canon to Sony or Nikon to Sony, or different brands, Fuji and I was going to say Olympus, but not really. The mirrorless thing isn't new anymore. It's been around a long time, and both Nikon and Canon just came to that game so late, and I've just been pretty disappointed with the way they've done. They've come out with some amazing products. They're wonderful products. I really like them, but they're not. People aren't just rushing out to buy them. They're upgrading their tech. We have a lot of clients, and a lot of you folks in the chat room and stuff will go from like your Nikon APS-C sensor to a full frame mirrorless. It's a great thing to do, but you're not going to get a lot of new people jumping into the brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But to kind of counter that or pair that, the DP Review guys have recently tested the EOS R with the updated firmware and have found it to be significantly improved. I talked a little bit about this on the last show, I think, when I had David Carr on, and I said the EOS R firmware or autofocusing system wasn't that bad, but the little bounding box that showed you where you were focusing was so delayed it made you feel like it wasn't in focus. It was giving you feedback that you're like, oh, I'm not hitting my mark. I'm not hitting my mark. And then I'd go look at the actual pictures and be like, oh, it was pretty much spot on. That was part of it. Part of it was a little bit slower too. Yeah. Updated firmware really improves the speed of that bounding box that's showing you where you're focusing, keeping up with actually where it's focusing. So you're getting good feedback, and also it's improved. That's good. Roy's pointing out that, it's a point of diminishing returns. Eventually Nikon and Canon will catch up. Maybe. I mean, certainly Canon is capable of that, and Nikon is capable of that. But then if they're reducing their money they're spending towards R&D, well, I don't know. It's going to be a vicious cycle for them where they're going to kind of be behind, but they're not spending the money to catch up, so they're going to just stay behind.
Yeah.
We'll see. And Sue Stevenson said that was the Cleveland Clinic. The locals call it the Brain Center. Cool. It's an amazing building. Okay. Mavic Mini got a firmware update today too that just generally improves its performance. I did put the GoPro back on top and flew it right behind me in the space. It took off high enough again. I need to go outside and see if I can get a little bit higher. You can hear its engines though, just absolutely revving so hard when it has this little GoPro on it. So I'm not giving up on that though, but it's nice to see. I also saw a video from a guy who was using one of the quick shot modes. Now this drone, I'm pretty impressed with it. And as the days go by, the more I use it, the more I think that this is a good value. It's still not the drone for everybody, and it's got some shortcomings, but at its price point, it's a pretty darn good value.
Yeah, I would agree.
A guy was using the quick shot modes, which you select yourself as a target. Now, this doesn't have any of the active tracking. It can't follow you, can't do any of that stuff. But he noticed that actually when he moved during one of the quick shot modes where he was the target, it did track him. So it probably has this capability. And at some point in the future, it may be enabled with a firmware update. They probably don't want to come out with that right away because they need some product differentiation. So we'll see. Let's stay tuned for that. And then I was curious about this. We'll get to winter weather shooting in just a second. But I was curious, you're not using Instagram too much these days, Steve. You never really did too much, did you?
I never really did. Is that what you just asked?
I mean, you were never, you posted, it was never a core part of your kind of social media sharing or strategy. Was that true?
No, because the way, I use social media mainly for photos or just real quick snaps of what I'm doing and stuff. But I have no interest in creating those video stories and Instagram was always frustrating because it was a mobile platform and it would crop your photos and it would size them down and everything. And so later was probably the best thing to help me use Instagram.
Later.com.
type of, based on the type of editing that I do and the way I like to share my pictures and stuff. But I just it was one more thing that, ended up finding a back burner, and then I'd forget about it. So yeah, I never really adopted it. I just kind of always hung out at Facebook, I guess.
Yeah. So I was curious because it feels like it's down for me. I mean, as in it's just not generating the kind of engagement and excitement that it was. And I would wonder, maybe it's just me. I've taken some longer breaks from it, so maybe I'm being punished for that. But I went to one of my old groups that I was part of during the wedding photography business and said, hey, is it just me? How important is it to you all? And I put out a poll. I said, gave people the option of saying it's an important part of a multi-pronged approach. Never really used it, never really loved it. It was useful, but no longer part of my strategy. And most of the people still say it's an important part of a multi-pronged approach. The next highest group on that was never really used it, never really loved it. And then below that came, it was useful, but no longer part of my strategy. So there's some fall off there, but certainly the bulk of people still see it as an important part of their kind of social media strategy.
Well, even the way that I use Instagram has changed. I would say just over the last 12 months, it's completely changed. I don't really scroll through Instagram anymore. I used to do that, and then it was easy because you could just double tap to like things. It was photo to photo to photo. But now I log on to Instagram, see if I have any notifications or anything that's going on, and then I look at the stories at the top, and I just kind of watch those for about 5 minutes or so. Maybe not even 5 minutes, probably 3 minutes. Yours usually pops up as one of the first stories, and David Carr is really good about posting every day. I've got a couple other friends who every day they've got a new addition to their story. And so I get to just see this chain of what's going on in their lives. And I really enjoy that. I don't have any desire to share my own stories, but I like watching those on there. And then I get off. And that's kind of my Instagram for the morning, and then I'll check it in the afternoon. And that's really about it. The rest of the time, if I'm on social media, it's Facebook. Mainly because just people are there. But I have my own gripes about Facebook, though, too. It just, social media in general, I have such a love-hate relationship with.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I haven't been using Instagram much, but even the way that I use it has really kind of changed.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I'd love chat. I'd love to hear from you. How was Instagram ever an important part of your strategy? Or did you care? Does it feel down? Where is it for you? I'd love to know.
Stevenson says an Instagram stalker. I suppose that's the case. And I know that Facebook has come out with stories, and they're supposed to, with some accounts, will link to Instagram. Mm-hmm. Stories on Facebook, I just don't pay any attention to. They don't seem as just clear cut and
I agree,
tailored to me as Instagram. So I kind of just use Instagram to watch the stories. So I'm a bit of an Instagram stalker, probably Instagram story stalker. And that's it.
Yeah. And Tim says, you assume I have a strategy. Well, yeah. When you assume that I have a strategy, as this is a critical part of my business. I mean, Tim, you have the excuse of having a day job, pretty serious one that keeps you busy. I don't know. I'm pretty down on it right now. I haven't posted in a while. And then I watched one of Thomas Heaton's recent videos, and I went to look at his Instagram. He hasn't posted on it since November 20th. Oh, gasp. That's a long time. I'm not sure if he was that regular of a poster before. I'm pretty sure I follow him on Instagram. But that's the other thing. Instagram so chooses who you see. It's so algorithmic that it's a little frustrating.
Yeah. So, well, I'm in business too. I real estate photography and a photo educator. So, what's Instagram going to get me for that? My clients are local. I sell some big, large format pieces, but not on a real frequent basis. So, my love of social media is basically the Penn Facebook site, my own personal stuff on there, and real estate photography for my work. I just don't really have to. I know for certain people, depending on the type of photography you do or what you do, like you, that is something that you have to pay attention to. That's you're in the content creation business.
Yeah,
getting it out there online.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe I should be all in on TikTok.
God.
I have posted to TikTok.
There was some news article. Now this is a headline that I saw, and it may not even be true. Something about somebody at TikTok found that there was China could spy on you through TikTok, or they were gathering your information or something. There's some concerns about privacy, which always surprises me because it's the internet.
It's a Chinese-owned company, so I don't know.
The entire world has access to whatever you're doing.
Right. I think any rumors about the company stealing your data is started by Facebook because they're jealous of TikTok.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a valid concern, though. It is. Totally is. So don't post TikToks of your credit card information. But there actually are some serious discussions there, and Hong Kong protesters and all of that. So I don't want to make light of that. But there's a trend on there where you give your dog an egg and then they're all gentle with it. And there are some hilarious versions where the dogs aren't so gentle with the egg. They're hilarious. They're so funny. And they're like 6 to 15 seconds long. I feel like my attention span is slowly shortening over my lifespan and over the time of
you and the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And I'm in that boat too, man.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, I want to let you go because I don't want to rush. I know you got to go. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it.
Having me. I'm sorry to bail out early, you guys. I love when we get into the photos from space and other news stories and stuff, and especially the Q&A. But we've got an out-of-town guest here, and we have dinner plans. And I told Toby that I needed to be off right at 6 o'clock my time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you keeping a closer eye on the watch than me, Toby. So.
Sure. Well, I appreciate your time for giving it to us. Thanks so much, Steve. And we will see you again soon. There won't be a show next week because I'll be in Alaska, but then the week after that, probably we'll check in.
Okay.
All right.
Here.
Bye, Steve.
See ya.
I'm going to stick around with the rest of you for a little bit while longer. One article I wanted to share because it's got some good advice, and then it's got a really goofy product and one piece of advice that's missing from it that I want to share with you all. That's a DP review article that I got here that is essential gears for your winter photo adventures. First up, gloves. They show these nice little fingerless gloves. I tell you what, I don't love those. I'd rather just have thin gloves and pair it with a jacket that has nice warm pockets. Now you think, well, duh, don't jackets do have nice warm pockets? The smart jackets are really puffy on the outside of the pocket and really thin on the inside, so your body heat keeps that warm. Thin gloves, you just stick them in those pockets between taking shots, pull them out, use it. The ones where the little fingers come off, I just feel like it doesn't make enough of a difference to really matter. You do have the ones that the gloves flop over as well. Those can be handy for some people, but man, when it gets cold, I feel like all of that skin needs to be covered all of the time. And a thinner glove helps that warmth get in there and stay in there just long enough for you to operate the camera. So I like gloves, but I think thinner ones. Keep those in your pockets to help keep your hands warm. Those are always good. They do make some little battery operated ones these days, and they even make little ones that run off a little like white gas or fuel that you can get if you're really shooting out there a long time. Rain covers, if it's snowing, these things just get in the way so much more than anything else. I'm not a huge fan of them. And if it's snowing and your camera is as cold as the environment, then it's not melting on there and you can just blow it off. Be careful not to blow it with too warm a breath because then you'll melt it and it'll melt in. If you do find yourself shooting out often, it's worthwhile to get one of the kind of more serious covers. Like, let's see, Think Tank has one. It's expensive, Think Tank Photo Rain cover, but it lines up and has a little catch. You tell them what model of camera you have, and it's got a little catch so that there is the eyepiece always works. Do they show that anywhere well? No, they don't. You dum-dums, that's the best part of this feature. Somewhere in here, I have one, and it lines up perfectly with your viewfinder, and then you catch it on there with a little holder, so your viewfinder always works. It's brilliant. So if you're out in inclement weather often, take a look for that. Where am I supposed to be going right now? Right here. All right. Tripods with bits of warm foam around them. I agree. Very, very nice. Nothing worse than putting your hands on a cold tripod often. Well, there are things that are worse, but not during winter shooting. Extra batteries. All again, similar to your hands, keep the batteries in an inside warm pocket. It's amazing how quickly real cold can kill batteries. So keep that in mind. Always keep a spare. Night sky apps. Yep, that's good. Ziploc bags. We talked about this before. If you're taking your very cold camera into a warm environment, even like a normal heated house, all of the moisture in that warm environment is going to condense on your cold and in your cold camera. So you put it in a Ziploc bag, minimizing the amount of moisture, the amount of air that can get to it during that time while it warms up to room temperature. I've actually never really used this. Most of the time, when you come in from a very cold outside into a warm house, the warm house isn't that moist. Sorry for those who hate that word. It's dry. In the wintertime, it's dry, right? Aren't you always putting on chapstick? So maybe if everybody just got out of the shower and somebody just cooked a giant pot of pasta in the kitchen, then it's worthwhile. But it doesn't hurt to do that. But better just keep it in your camera bag, all zipped up, until that whole bag comes up to temperature, and then you can get it out. But if you do find you have a lot of humidifiers in your house. And along with that is the little silica gel don't eat these package that come with most of your electronics when you buy. You could keep that in those Ziploc bags if you wanted to kind of further reduce the amount of moisture. Again, I haven't had that issue. Headlamps are always useful. Personal locator beacon. My friends in Alaska, Frank, who I'll be up with in just a couple of days for shooting the aurora, they do have one of these for when they go out hiking. This will communicate with your phone and to satellites and allows you to send very basic messages saying, hey, I'm okay. Hey, I've run into a little bit of trouble, but I'm just delayed. Don't worry about me yet. Or, oh my God, a moose bit my leg off and please call search and rescue. And a few other text messages like that. So they can be very, very handy, literally save your life. So again, they're only really necessary if you're going out there far. And then this product. Every once in a while on workshops, I feel like we talk about this. We want some kind of umbrella that fits on our camera. Wouldn't that be nice? Because then you don't have to deal with any of that stuff that's all over it. And the think tank thing is pretty nice, but it's still hard to get your hands in and out. Wouldn't it be nice to have a little umbrella on top? Well, I guess somebody else had that decision, that idea. But just for them, this thing is called the Nubrella. I sent a picture to my brother, and he said it looks like somebody stole the part off their kid's stroller and then strapped it to their shoulders. I think that's very, very true. I mean, I like nerdy, geeky stuff, but man, I don't think I'd be caught dead walking around in public wearing this. This is just a level that you just look like a buffoon. So, chat room, I'd love to know what you think. And, Kate, you say the wind will love it. Yeah, I know. It feels like you'd sail away. I think it's supposed to be strong, but golly. And the last thing that was missing from this list, a good pair of warm boots. Out of everything that gets most uncomfortable on me, the fastest in cold weather shooting, it's my feet. My toes get cold. Hands, you can shove them in those inner pockets. You can keep them warm, but feet, no. So good pair of boots. The Sorels make some really nice boots. I find that I don't suffer from, uncomfortably cold feet, but they do get really cold outside in colder temperatures. And even I have a pair of boots that are rated to -60 Fahrenheit, and my feet get pretty unhappy at -20s in those boots. And yeah, I know that is cold, but they're rated to -60 and at -20. So those little heating warmers, the little chemical packs that you can put underneath your feet can help. I asked for a pair of electric socks for Christmas because I am going to be doing some cold weather shooting in February back in Yellowstone. That's actually where we've run into some of the coldest temperatures. Not Alaska, but Yellowstone. All right. What else did I want to talk about? I feel like I can go for hours now that Steve is gone. I think that was pretty much it. Oh, the fact that there is, back to the gear real quick, Autel Evo is supposed to be coming out with a drone with a 1-inch sensor that could do 8K or 6K. For those who don't remember, Autel Evo is that company that makes that orange drone that looks very much similar to the Mavic. I reviewed it, did a very brief review of it earlier this year. It is capable of 4K at 60 frames per second. Its controller has a nice little screen built in, so you don't even need a smartphone. And it's got a couple other features that are pretty nice, including none of that whole do not fly stuff. But I don't mind the do not fly stuff. That's what's keeping me safe when I'm flying in an airplane from somebody being an idiot with their drone. So I don't mind that so much, but maybe if you live near an old airport that's no longer used, or there's some other reason that DJI is blocking you from flying, some non-legitimate reason in your area, then the Autel Evo looks like a really good drone. It's still on my list of my 5 favorite drones of 2019, even though it came out a little earlier. And I ran into a guy. It's one of those stories, like I knew a guy whose uncle's girlfriend. No, this guy's brother is chief marketing officer for Autel Evo. And he told me a couple of weeks ago that they were coming out with this drone. And I scoured the internet. Nobody was really talking about it. I was like, I wonder if he knew what he was talking about or not. And here it is. It's probably not going to be announced to CES 2020. So that's actually about a month from now, not that long. But it will have a 1-inch sensor. And I'm really excited to see what they do with that, because again, it has some nice benefits over the DJI, is what I'm saying. So, all right. Let's move on to our Q&A as we start to wrap it up. Loyal Logic wants to know if using a T5i with CamLink and updating the firmware to Magic Lantern is worth it, taking off the overlays feature. Hope you had a great stream. So you're talking about using your T5i as a webcam, basically, with something like the CamLink that I'm using now, the Elgato piece of software. Yes. Here's the thing. These cameras make fantastic webcams. They are really, really good with that big, gorgeous sensor. You can get a little bit of depth of field. You can see there's a fall off behind me. It's not super in focus back there. I could make it even more narrow depth of field. I think I'm shooting at about f3.2 from about 10 feet away. So yeah, I do think it's worth it. That $99 plus you put Magic Lantern on, which gives you that clean HDMI feed. That can be quite nice, especially if you already have the T5i. If you're thinking about getting the T5i just for this, then I'm not as sure. You might want to check at some of the Olympus options. There's some really nice Micro Four Thirds used that come in at just a couple $100 now. I saw a ton of those on B&H the other day as I was browsing for something. So, yeah, I think that's good. And then, Kate, you said you have a friend that just used the Groupon to sign up for the Photo Enthusiast Network deal. Signed up for the year. Afterwards, Groupon said it was only good until April of 2020. So you use it now. I think the voucher with Groupon is only usable until April of 2020. But if you use it to sign up now, it is good for that full year. And again, with the way Groupon works, I'm not 100% familiar with them, but I believe that your voucher money never expires, but the voucher itself might. So for instance, your friend doesn't sign up for Photo Enthusiast Network using that link. They lose the ability to do that, but that money just sits there in the Groupon saying, hey, you have this Groupon money, you can spend it on something else now. So you never lose the money. And that is my understanding of that. And it will not expire on you. And of course, the nice thing too is that you know who we are. Write us. We'll make that right if something weird has happened. Yeah. So that's it. Okay. I think we are going to wrap this show up. And thank you. Thank you all. If you're watching this show all the way to the end and you're not a Pen member and we have this ridiculous deal going on right now, what are you doing? It's a ridiculous deal. Try it out. And again, I just want to stress that it's not a gotcha. You sign up at the end of the 6 months or the year, you have to decide to sign up more. We won't automatically take your money anymore. I promise that. So that's a pretty good deal. Yeah. And if you watch the show this long, hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe for future video content. And reach out on Instagram. Even though I said it's not my favorite place to post, I still enjoy having conversations with you. Also interesting, I posted that alternative cheese that I was trying the other day. And so many people wrote back with other suggestions. I love that there's so many other vegans and vegetarians out there looking for dairy alternatives. And a quick update on that cheese, because I know you're all wondering. When it's warmed up a bit and also in something, not just eaten like a slob, handheld cold, it's actually not bad. Not bad at all. So, all right. On the cheese note, thank you all so much for watching and hanging out with us on your Wednesday afternoon or wherever you are. Hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.